hear about this particular product, the supplement that is just a miraculous product out there. So with that, I'd like to introduce our first guest, Dr. Steve Freeman, who is very, very knowledgeable about the product, as well as he has a great history of nutrition and health.
Yeah.
So, Steve?
And he may also give you a testimony about himself and the use of it.
Yes. So, Steve?
Yes.
You can take it from here. Thank you so much for being on the air with us today.
Thank you for inviting me to be on with the Hollow Earth Network. I count this a real privilege. And I appreciate all of you that have dialed in here that are going to listen to what I share about this evening. So, first of all, I would like to start out with a personal testimony, a family testimony, and then I'd like to share some testimonies of other folks that I've been working with here since August 1st when I got involved with this product. And I think you will then understand the tremendous dimensions and the broad spectrum that this product works in. Okay? Share with you my own testimony. My wife was struck by a gas station snowplow about 13 years ago. And when she was struck, she suffered tremendously in her upper neck and upper back area. And she has 2 discs. One of them is pushing a full inch, according to the MRI, into her spinal cord. So I've lived with a woman who for 13 years has suffered tremendous debilitating pain. And because we are a natural family, I've been involved for 33 years in health and nutrition, naturally I turn to natural, herbal, and other natural supplements. And I could not find any product that worked effectively. I tried Boswellia, arnica, cetyl myristoyate, turmeric, chondroitin, glucosamine sulfate. I tried mangosteen. I tried everything that we could find to give to my wife. And at best, the ones that did a little something were like a 2 to 3 foot leap over a 10-foot ditch. They just did not cut the mustard. So what I encountered when a good friend of mine, Carl Humphrey from Texas, called me was a great deal of skepticism when he shared with me how this product could take care of inflammation and pain. So he very wisely, this was back in July last summer, he very wisely sent me a couple of boxes, and this was a Sunday when he called me. I received them overnight Tuesday, and that morning I woke up with a headache. Now, being in the health and nutrition field and being a leader in this area, I have received a lot of different products and tried many different products over the years. And I've got to tell you that most of these products do not affect me. The only products that I really sense any difference are the ones that have some sort of a speed element. The caffeine family, the guaranas, the Mawang, ephedra type products. And I don't really like the effect of those products. Some people do, but I personally don't. But I do sense a difference. I do know I'm taking a product that's affecting me. And this particular product, when I got it, I had a headache that morning, Tuesday morning. The FedEx truck arrived. I took it. Within half an hour, my headache was gone. So right from the get-go, I had a pretty good inkling that this was a powerful, different product than what I was used to. So my wife, she, within a week, was pain-free. And folks, I cannot tell you what a blessing that was to me, and what that did to me was make me totally committed. I'm so enthusiastic about this product, and I hope that many of you will become just as enthusiastic about this product. So the other area that it worked on in my family was myself. I was a pitcher through Little League right through high school. I played a lot of tennis, and that overhand action has left me with rotor cuff problems in my right shoulder. And I've not been able to sleep on my right side for many years. And after 3 days on the product, I was able to sleep, and since then I've been able to sleep on my right side. More recently, I'm 62 years old now. I'll be 63 this summer. And about 3 years ago, I started to experience frequency of urination in the evening. This affects quite a few males as they get older. And I was going about 3 to 5 times a night. It was extremely irritating. So I went to my family physician, who's a good friend of mine, and he gave me the wonderful exam and declared that I had BPH, or enlarged prostate. So he wanted to put me on a drug. I said, no thanks. I'll look for a natural supplement for that. And I took a tea that I'd recommend to anyone. It's called Bell's Easy Flow Prostate Tea for Men. It comes out of Canada. And I started drinking that tea, and lo and behold, it took care of that problem. But I went back, after 2 years on the tea, I went back a year ago, this past summer. He gave me the exam and said, Steve, I'm glad that you aren't experiencing the problems anymore, but I still would like to put you on a drug because you still have enlarged prostate. I once again declined, and then this past September, I went in again for a physical, and my doctor said, Steve, he said, brother, whatever you're doing, keep doing it, because you have a normal-sized prostate. I was dumbfounded. I'd never heard anything regarding the Soul product that would do something like that, but as explained to the doctor, I said, Bruce, I'm still taking the tea, which obviously after 2 years did not shrink my prostate, but I've been taking this super natural anti-inflammatory. I explained to him what it was, and he said, Steve, that's got to be it, because enlarged prostate is an inflammation problem. And you've got a super anti-inflammatory, and that has got to be it. So, folks, that I was dumbfounded, astonished, amazed, and all I can tell you is that this product will do some wonderful things for all of us. Now, the third area in my family, I've got a future daughter-in-law, my son's fiancée, and she has suffered with fibromyalgia for years. She's been on a very nasty drug called Celebrex, and if you know anything about that drug, it's got a mile long of warning labels. Lots of strokes and heart attacks have been attributed to that. But if you have need of a COX-2 inhibitor, there's not anything else that can replace that. So that's why people still take that drug. But anyway, after 3 weeks on Soul, she now is totally Celebrex free. And we've had a number of other women, it seems to affect more women than men, with fibromyalgia who've been able to get off their meds thanks to Soul and its super natural anti-inflammatory action. So, folks, this is something that got me very excited. I'm convinced. There's no one that can change my mind about Soul. I'd like to ask Tina to share at this time a little bit about what experience she's had with it, and then I'm going to share some more testimonies with you. Tina, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I hear you fine.
Perfect. All right. Well, when Steve called me and told me about this, and he really only said one thing that got my attention, that it's an anti-inflammatory that's 281 times more powerful than Bayer aspirin. At least the black seed ingredient in the product is 200. It was proven at the University of Maryland. And, you know, I also am interested in natural health, and following just all the articles about health, I knew right away that if it could reduce inflammation, it would help with health. So I thought, wow, this sounds like it's at least worth trying. And so this was also in the beginning of August, so I said, well, just ship me out the 4 boxes. And I started taking it, and the beginning of August is right when I'm blessed with really good health, but I do have this allergy problem that comes from hay fever every August and September. And, you know, when it starts coming, I have to go get all this allergy stuff because, I mean, even Benadryl doesn't help me get over it. It's really, really bad. And so I started taking it, and I was expecting to start taking my allergy medicine in another week or so. And, you know, I had a little bit of sneezing. I was already starting, my eyes were already itching. But what happened is that although it wasn't like 100% perfect, I never had to go on the allergy medication. And I really never really got any serious symptoms of allergy last fall when I usually am just dying. I mean, I can't even go outside. And so that got my attention, and I started hiking because I like to hike. And so I was hiking, which I usually can't do in the fall, and my husband and I go up this one hike that's uphill. And so we went, I had been taking it about a week, and so we started hiking up, and I felt great. So I just kept hiking, and when I got to the top of the hill, I turned around, and he was not even in sight. And I was like, wow, what happened to him? And pretty soon, he came up all huffing and puffing, and I was like, John, you ought to try this stuff. And so he hates taking pills. He cannot take pills. So since this isn't a pill, he said, all right, I'll try it out, And so he started taking it, and what I didn't know about him was that he had developed arthritis in his fingers. I guess he was embarrassed about it. He went to the doctor and never told me. And when he went to the doctor, they did these x-rays, and the nurse came out, and she said, geez, were you in a car wreck or something? And he was like, no, but he was worried about it, and they told him to take all this stuff, and he didn't want to take like Advil all day long and stuff. So he still had so much pain in his fingers that I didn't even know about. And so after about a week, he said, you know what? My pain is starting to go away. And it was pretty severe, I guess. And so it ended up being 6 weeks later. But in 6 weeks, all the pain in his fingers went away. And he has become such a happier person because of that, and is also hiking a lot faster. I think it could be something to do with the D-ribose in the product, but, I mean, we can really go hiking now together, and he's right up there, and, I mean, he's climbed all the 14,000-foot mountains here in Colorado when he was younger, so I'm so happy to see him back hiking like that again. So those are just 2 personal stories. There are lots more, but that's it. Steve, back to you.
Thank you, Tina. I'll share a few more just to give you an idea about what this product can do. There's in our group, there's a physical therapy practice owner. His name's Jed. And Jed's brother was the president of the bottling company in Utah that bottles Noni, the Miranda Noni product, Monavi's product, Zangos. They do about 150,000 bottles per shift, so that's a lot of product they can move. And he never once represented any of those products, even though his brother would send him home with free cases of product, in his practice, because he's a very honest individual. And he said to me, Steve, I could not represent a product as being effective unless it worked on me. And he said, I didn't experience any difference. So he never did share that product with his practice. But when Byron Belka, the president of our company, called him and said, I'm going to bring this product from Asia and Europe to the United States in July, and I'd like you to come in and talk to me about it, he brought with him a business partner by the name of Brian Hazelgren. And Brian was on the BYU Championship 1984 football team. He was a tailback that was a punt return specialist. And if you know anything about American football, if you don't score a touchdown, you will definitely be smothered by the opposition. So he suffered 7 concussions. 3 of them left him temporarily blind. And he, in fact, watched the championship game in 1984 from a hospital room. He has suffered since 1984 every day with headaches and has taken 4 to 6 Excedrin extra strength. And when Byron that day, back in April, May, gave him the product, he then was relieved of headaches, and he's not had to take Excedrin since then. So that got Jed very, very excited about the product. And his first patient was a University of Utah religion professor. This professor had 2 bad knees. One was operated on. The surgeon declared it a total success and was trying to schedule the other knee. And the professor said, not so fast, I still have pain. So he went to Jed for therapy, and Jed put him on the product. This was his very first patient. Within 8 days, this professor, who could barely make it up the stairs in his own home, was now going upstairs completely pain-free. 2 weeks after that, Jed gets a text from him, and he's at Disneyland, and he says, thank you, Jed, and thank God you gave me this product. I just walked around the park all day with my family. And just recently, this professor went to Greece and spent 2 weeks walking around seeing all the historical sites there in Greece. This is a man that got his complete life back, and now he can be active with his family again. Another individual we have in our group, his name is Morgan, and he is a martial arts expert. He went from white to black belt 2 times in Japanese and Korean disciplines. Ever since he was 8, he has spent hours each day practicing martial arts. He was a master tournament fighter, had his own dojo, and about 10 years ago he started developing pain, especially in his legs. And 5 years ago he had to give up martial arts completely because he couldn't even practice anymore. And Morgan takes the product. He also could barely make it up the stairs. And within a week's time, he's bounding up and down the stairs. His mother came to visit him and saw him doing high kicks and doing all the things that he needed to do as a martial arts expert. And she broke down in tears because she knew what martial arts meant to him and also what pain he was in. And today, Morgan is back practicing martial arts. Another individual who got his life back. Let's talk about Ali. Ali, just before Christmas, he's in New York. Ali had male breast cancer, and he had an operation. He went through chemotherapy, and a good friend of mine, Russ Johnson, Dr. Johnson, called him up Christmas Day and found him barely able to speak, laying on his bed, just totally demolished health-wise. And I had spoken to Ali 2 months before, actually sent him some product, and he hadn't even opened the box. So Russ said to Ali, he says, man, he says, you've had the answer all along. You need to get that Rain product and take it now. And he got up off his bed, took the product, and within 24 hours, he was totally restored, full of energy, living life as normal. And this man now is completely committed to the Rain product, just totally sold out as to what this product can do for himself and others. I'd like to speak about a woman who presented herself to a good friend of mine, Dr. Brad Weeks. And Dr. Brad Weeks has put about 500 patients now on this product. He's so impressed with it. She presented herself with shingles, and she'd been suffering for 3 days, could hardly eat or sleep. And she said, Doc, this is driving me mad. Now, he'd never tried this old product with shingles. So he said, you know, shingles, that herpes simplex, is a inflammation issue. Are you willing to try something? I don't know if it'll work, but let's try it. And she says, sure, I'll try anything. Before she left the office, he applied some on her shingles outbreak and gave her some to take internally, and she started to feel some relief. And the next morning she called back and said, Doc, I'm 90% better. And you that are on the line here, if you suffer from shingles or you know anyone that does, you know that that's a miracle. That does not happen with shingles. That is one nasty, very debilitating, painful condition. So this just gives you a little idea, you know, of what this can do. We've had people with lupus, tumors over in Asia. They've had it for 2 years now, and they have some wonderful stories. Tina and I and Jane and Billy were on a cruise together for Rain last week, and we heard from a lot of the Asians who have been blessed with this product for 2 years now, and they were telling us about hearing coming back, sight coming back, sense of smell, tumors, paralysis, people getting the use of their bodies back. Just some amazing walk-on-water type of testimonies. We also have had diabetes, blood sugar being normalized, particularly through the D-ribose and the black cumin activity in our product, blood pressure being normalized, mental problems being cleared up. This is a product that literally will penetrate the blood-brain barrier and go in and actively scrub out your brain. You see, the problem today for many people is that they're taking in the wrong type of oils. And your organs, your brain, for example, 60% fat. Your organs are 50 to 60% fat, your cells the same amount. And where do we store our toxins? When you have pesticides, you have mercury, you have all the various things that unknowingly we put in our bodies. Where are they stored? They're stored in the fat part of our organs and our cells. And this particular product, the black cumin seed especially, has a special rotor-rooter effect where it goes in and pushes out and extrudes the toxins and the bad oil out of our body. The best illustration I can give you is, let's say that we were fortunate enough to be able to buy a new Mercedes. We spent $80,000, drive off the lot smiling, and we keep on driving and driving and driving. We never change the oil in that wonderful German engineered machine. What would happen to that motor, to that engine? Well, you all know that the engine would seize and you'd have to buy a new motor. Why is that? Because that good oil that you started out with oxidized, it picked up contaminants, and it ceased to do its job effectively and lubricate that motor. And then the piston seize, and you have a ruined motor. Well, we have an amazing God-made body. A German engineered machine is a wonderful thing, but we have a body that we all have oil changes that need to take place. We all need a good old-fashioned oil change. And when you change the oil in a vehicle, you don't just change a quart or two. You change the whole thing in the filter too. All 5, 6, whatever your motor requires, you put that oil in. And that's why the first month on the product, we take a little more than we normally do for maintenance. And my wife, for example, it took 3 of these pouches per day for her to get complete relief. So you're just getting an oil change, and you now are flushing out toxins, you're pushing out the bad oil, and by doing so, you're reducing the inflammation. And another mechanical illustration is when your auto mechanic encounters a nut that's frozen onto a bolt, rusted on, what do they reach for? They reach for something called penetrating oil. And this is what our product is. It's a penetrating oil that will literally penetrate in and loosen up the joints and so on of our bodies and just get that area clean. So when you're using the product, if you have any type of pain, here's what I'm going to suggest that you do. It has transdermal properties so that it will go through the skin very effectively. It's a penetrating product, and it'll get into that joint. So if your knees are bothering you, for myself, I rub it on my shoulder, and it gets right in there, penetrates into that joint in my shoulder. Just apply it a little bit, not much, maybe no more than